Hello and welcome to Mad Dog Hobby, just a guy enjoying the hobby the only way I know how, with time restrictions, coffee, and a steep learning curve. Rough. Millions of years ago, there was once a mortal race called the Necrons here. After being tricked into trading their souls for immortal mechanical bodies during the war in heaven, they became known as the Necrons. After defeating the Old Ones and shattering the Catan, most of them entered stasis in vast underground tomb complexes beneath their worlds, waiting for a time when the galaxy would be ripe for conquest again. A Necron tomb world is a heavily fortified labyrinth containing necropolises, status chambers, and hidden defense systems. Beneath the surface, entire armies of Necrons lie dormant in stasis crypts, tended by scarab swarms and canoptic constructs until the time comes for them to awaken. Oh yes, let's build and paint a Necron Kill Team Tomb World board in 3 days. Last time I tried this with the Galadark board, it took 4 days because of an unplanned side quest for more spray paint, but this time I'm ready. I've got paints, brushes, and enough caffeine to reawaken a Catan shard. But wait, plot twist, I'm also entering this project into a painting challenge hosted by Tabletop Impulse. Quality channel, Star Wars Shatterpoint, Kill Team, hobby events for the community, live streaming, basically everything I should be doing, but I'm just too busy running out of spray paint. And frankly, community challenges, genius idea. I wish I'd thought of it first, but this is YouTube. If you ain't first, you're last, and right now I'm probably somewhere around 26. But anyway, the deadline for the Terrain Hobby Challenge is the 30th of November, so plenty of time to enter. I'll link his video in the description and get cracking. Plan, day 1, clean, build, spray. Day 2, base colours. Day 3, washes, highlights, and backache, probably. One small problem though, I don't like the Zarakhan Dynasty box art. It's that neon green. I want ancient Egyptian vibes, not Harry Potter. So I Google Egyptian colour palette, ignoring all legitimate colour theory, locking in sand-coloured stone, turquoise walls, and metallic brown Necrons. Done. Ancient Robo-Pharaoh vibes sorted. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about the last time I built Terrain, the Galadark set. Wow, the biggest issue are those connection pegs. They were thick. The result, half the board sat there awkwardly levitating like some kind of anti-gravity edition. Now, my solution, I just hacked off all but one peg per wall section. Problem solved. Not so subtle or elegant, but effective nonetheless. This time though, GW finally sorted it out. They switched to a single peg system, basically the same botch job idea I came up with, but you know, intentional. They ditched the little caps on top of the pillars too, so no more terrain pieces awkwardly jutting up like they're trying to break free from gravity. For this edition, I can just build the terrain as instructed. Nice. I'm so confident this time around. I'm living dangerously. I undercoat the whole terrain black without masking the connection points, which does save a lot of time. I just hope it pays off. It's day 2, it's about 9 AM. I'm ready to start. First cup of coffee, away we go. Trying to add structure to my painting, I treated the project similar to how I paint minis. Start by painting the lowest part of the model first, and then work my way up. I painted all the gold parts with Balthasar gold, which was my first mistake. Next, I painted the first layer of Sotek green, which was my second mistake. Sotek green doesn't have a great coverage and will need 2 coats to give an acceptable coverage. Why did I choose a light colour for the walls? The stone walls are also a light colour, so we'll also need multiple coats. The dark Harry Potter walls aren't looking so bad after all. Painting the Sotek green with a skinny inferior brush was getting me nowhere fast, so I switched up to a mega fat brush so I can work faster. Which made me aware of the first mistake, painting the gold first. For speed, I had to just paint over the gold I had previously painted to avoid being bogged down with precision. Even with the fat brush, this took ages, which leads me on to my third mistake. Painting all crevices in the pillars. This slowed me down dramatically as well, but I thought it would be a good idea if I had any chance of winning the painting competition. After the second day, all I had managed to do is get 2 coats of the Sotek green down with a pretty shoddy coverage. Not where I wanted to be after the second day. So it's day 3. It's about 7:30 AM. Away we go. So, the start of day 3, all I had to show for it was 2 patchy coats of Sotek green and the overwhelming realisation that this project is already falling behind schedule. fantastic. At this rate, the only thing I'll be finishing is my coffee supply. Anyway, time to break my own rules. I grab some Achelian green, yes, the expensive contrast paint I swore never to waste on terrain, and I just start slapping it on. Why? Because it's a tomb world, it deserves luxury, plus it'll add some interesting depth without me pretending I know how to blend. And I'm not worrying about pooling, no, I want pooling. I slather the wash on thick and fast, praying that when I sponge the Sotak green back over it, I'll somehow get enough depth and contrast to skip the edge highlights entirely. Then comes the dry brush, or more accurately the sponge brush. I load up my brush from a dry palette, dab most of it off, and start sponging the terrain like I'm trying to find fingerprints at a crime scene. I avoid the deep recesses and edges to keep that spooky undead tech look, the kind of eerie glow that whispers, "This terrain cost me my weekends." 2 coats later, and to be fair, not bad. For once, I'm not horrified. I reapply the Balthasar gold I previously obliterated with the fat brush and drown it in undiluted rattling grime. Day 3. Complete. Then comes day 4, and reality hits harder than a 12-hour painting session. I have massively overestimated my abilities. The terrain isn't just ahead of me, it's lapped me twice and is now taunting me from the finish line. Where did it all go wrong? Well, every other board I've done, I've just dry brushed up from black. Works perfectly on Imperial or Orc Scrap, but for Necrons, nah, living metal doesn't rust, so dry brushing won't cut it. I wanted a sleek alien brilliance, and now I'm paying for my arrogance in painting hours. Anyway, onto the sandstone walls. I start with a base coat of Morghast bone, using the same sponging technique as before, because if it ain't broke, keep doing it until it is, or the brushes. I try to avoid the green areas, but of course I hit them anyway. Future me can fix that. I was worried the paint wouldn't go over the dark undercoat, but the sponge technique worked miracles. 2 careful layers later, I've got decent coverage, a little of the undercoat showing through, but hey, good enough for now. Time to pinline some Agrax Earthshade into the cracks and recesses. I did this as fast as possible, loading up a fair amount in my synthetic brush and going around the terrain, forcing it in all the recesses and cracks. I did get some expected overspill, so the next phase is to neaten this up. Next came the cleanup. Thin coats, but not diluted to keep the chalkiness at bay. Same battered synthetic brush, just me and the terrain are locked in mortal combat, cleaning up the Agrax and all the edges of the sandstone. 1 coat, 2 coats, 3 coats. By the end, I'd been at it for 4 bloody days. My coffee was gone, my hands cramping, and I started questioning the very concept of fun. The terrain wasn't a project anymore, it had become the enemy. At this point, I wasn't painting terrain, I was crossing the maelstrom. Though the hours are long, and the task far from complete, in His name I persevere. By His light I am guided. This project has taken its toll. It has delayed the video beyond my sacred release schedule. Yet, this board shall not be cast aside. It shall not return to the shelf of shame. It shall not join the cursed pile of projects I swear I'll get back to someday. No. No matter the time, no matter the toll, I shall know no fear. I shall know no surrender. I will be victorious for the Emperor. Anyway, cringe amateur dramatics aside, I start day 8. I still need to highlight the stone walls, but after spending 4 days base coating them, I need to paint something that'll give me an actual sense of progress before my motivation completely disappears. So, gold it is. I bring the Balthasar gold back out just so I can tick something off the list. I carefully hit the glyphs, avoiding the recesses, and boom, gold finished. A small victory, but a welcome victory nonetheless. Next up, the Necrons. I slap Castellax bronze on all of them because I want to test out the colour scheme I've got planned for my Canoptic Circle. If it's going wrong, it might as well go wrong here. For some variation, I also hit the scarabs, top panels, teleporters, all the little bits and bobs to break up the palette. Then I drown the lot in rattling grime, including the beds of the status chambers, everything except the top plates because I'm not a complete contrast simp. Once dry, I highlight the underskeletons of the Necrons and Scarabs with Castellax bronze. Then it's time for Knoptech alloy on all the armor plates, and this paint is weird. I don't know if it's old or cursed, but it's seriously gloopy, like painting with metallic porridge. Even after thinning, it still leaves texture. Has anyone else had that? I like the colour, but seriously, if you've used it, let me know in the comments before I waste more money buying another tub and regret it. After another full day of painting, things are finally starting to look the part. I'm actually happy with the colour scheme. Now it's time to highlight the walls. I could just dry brush them, but an edge highlight would look better, and let's face it, I could use the practice, so day 9 begins with edge highlighting all of the sandstone. I've been told a special tipped brush would make this easier, so I crack open a brand new Winsor & Newton Series 7. Let's see if this brush is all it's cracked up to be, or is it just like when I was a kid and thought new trainers would make me run faster. I use Viejo Bone White for the highlight, thinned slightly for flow. After some trial and error, I use it like a highlighter pen, brush at about 30-degree angle, dragging it lightly towards myself. Once I find the rhythm, it actually flies by. I hit everything I can reach from one angle, rotate the piece, and repeat. Does the brush help? I mean, yeah, I think it does. Though I suspect the real test will be when I'm highlighting something like Eldar models. Next, I just tidy the blue areas back up with Sotek green, ready for the grand finale, the OSL. Highlighting and cleanup took 2 full days, which frankly ain't too bad. This is what it's looking like at the start of day 11, and the finish line is finally in sight. Now, OSL. My OSL skills are worse than my highlighting skills, which is saying something, but if I want to get good, I've got to put in the reps. Viejo makes a fluorescent range that might give me an edge, so I'm excited to try it. Apparently, fluorescent paints work best over light undercoats. I don't have an airbrush yet, so I go old school and dry brush white to build up the glow. I start by dotting the light sources with white, edge highlighting around them, and blocking in where the box art shows glow. For the glow itself, I use a moist brush and dry brush in circles to get a soft gradient without turning it into a chalky mess. On the pillars, I block the orb and the surrounding panel with white, then fluff it out to create a radiant glow. Because I'm a messy painter, I go back in with Sotek green to tidy up the edges and add contrast where the light would naturally fall, because, as we know, light travels in straight lines. I go with cold green from Viejo's fluorescent range, not because it contrasts overly with the walls, but because it blends nicely with the Sotek base, which should help hide some sins. The paint flows more like a glaze than a contrast, thin, transparent, doesn't flow into the recesses. I've got to be careful with it. If I overload my brush, I'll get pigment blotches faster than you can say noob painter, so I glaze it on in 2 thin coats, just enough for the vibrancy I'm looking for without too many blotches. It's not perfect, but after some fussing, I'm genuinely happy with it. Then I bring the lightest points back up, stippling white in the center of each light source and highlighting nearby edges where the light would hit directly. That adds a nice intensity, like the terrain is actually humming with alien energy. Now, gameplay clarity. I need to mark the doors and breach points somehow to make them clear while in game. On the Galadark, I used hazard stripes, but come on, Necrons don't need health and safety approved warning signs, so I try and mimic the same glow effect from the walls. I paint white above the hatches, 2 glazes of cold green, spot white back in the middle, 1 more glaze, another spot, and it looks terrible, but at this point perfection is the enemy of completion, so it'll just have to do. Finally, I tidy up the panels with Castellax bronze. My hands had rubbed some paint off during all the handling, and I give these weird hood things a coat too, just to make them look more finished. And then 2 coats of fluo green on a white undercoat, and then a dry brush back up for these electric thingamajigs. Then I number the underside of the terrain to make setup a little easier, and just put a little bit of varnish on there to make sure it stays there. And with that, it's done! Or so I thought. When assembling the terrain for the final reveal, the connection points were too snug. Of course, that's what I get for skipping the masking tape. To fix it, I just clipped the pegs off one side of the connectors and
problem solved pretty easily. So yeah, take that, masking tape. Who are you, eh? Who are you? A quick touch up with Sotek Green after the emergency surgery, a deep breath, and finally, I am victorious. Here we have it. All in all, 11 solid days of painting, so I only went over target by what? 8 days? And yeah, it kind of looks like a Thousand Suns scheme. I guess that's what happens when you pick ancient Egyptian chic as your colour palette, but seriously, I'm pretty happy with it. The OSL turned out better than expected, not perfect, but definitely a solid building block for future glow-ups. The door markers though, yeah, those are a crime against the immortal dynasties, but by that point I just run out of patience, so it'll have to stay. At the start of the video I thought I was making loads of mistakes, but looking back I think the main blunder was undercoating it black. If I'd just primed it all a sandstone colour, I probably would have shaved off a ton of time. Would it have been enough to finish the whole board in 3 days? Probably not. Okay, definitely not, but it would have helped. And hey, half the fun of terrain is working out how to do it faster the next time. Maybe I'll get it down to 3 days by the next Kill Team season. Will this be enough to place first in Tabletop Impulse's Terrain Painting Challenge? Honestly, no idea. There are some absolute monsters entering, so make sure you subscribe to Tabletop Impulse to see the results. And if you're watching this after they've been announced, I'll have the results video linked below, unless I lost horribly, in which case I'll pretend the link is broken.
If you like slapdash painting and weird hobby projects, hit like and subscribe now. More Mad Dog Hobby coming soon. Ciao.